Okay. So I want to welcome everyone to our 2021 annual business meeting of the 19th Century Committee. As I mentioned, we normally would do this at the convention. This year we're again doing it on Zoom. But I think this probably will be the last time we'll have to resort to Zoom to get this meeting done. I think next year we'll be in Baltimore. So the SABR folks, I think, too. We have, I just want to say very, very briefly that about a month ago, I asked Bob if he would actually become the co-chair of the 19th Century Committee. And it really is a better reflection of, I guess, our working together over the years, particularly in the last several years. Bob has been really, really instrumental in so many things in committee planning and so forth and so on. And he's not just the newsletter editor. So and thank God, Bob. Bob was very comfortable staying in the position, but he was willing to do it. So I want to welcome him as the co-chair of the committee. So we do have a co-chair situation, and thank you. And it's I'm very happy. I'm very, very glad that you did that. And we both agreed that our first task was to find younger people to take over for the future. So we'll
which
work
is
on
all
that.
of you.
I got a little older since we started this.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to turn it over. I want to turn it over to Bob here. So he's part of this opening and going to talk about a little of the technical stuff, I think.
Let me just thank you, Peter. The two things just to make here. One, instead of just yelling out a question as we go, we would appreciate if you'd use the chat function to type in a question if somebody's making an address or making a presentation of some item on the agenda. You can find that if you run your cursor down there to the bottom row, there should be a chat button. If there's not, go to where there's 3 dots and it says more, click on that and you'll see chat function there. The second point is when we have almost 30 people here and they're probably on several screens. So it's possible that somebody is speaking, might not be, you can't find them quickly. If you run your cursor to the upper right-hand corner where it says view and click on that and then click when it comes up speaker view, whoever is speaking will take up about 2/3 of your screen and you'll be able to follow them with that. And if there's some dialogue going on, it will switch between whoever is speaking. Other than that, we're off and running, and let's begin the agenda, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thanks for getting us started. Okay, so as we always do, it's kind of our traditional meeting kickoff. We're going to turn to our Overlooked Legends project. And normally, we've asked one of the chairmen of the project, the co-chairs of the project, who are Adam Darkowski and Joe Williams. Unfortunately, both of them this year are on family vacations. So, and that has happened once before in the past, and they were kind enough to suggest Tom Zalko did it, and he did it. This time they suggested Tom again and Matt Albertson. So we figured we'd give Matt an opportunity. So Matt, Tom is you want to unmute yourself, I guess, and
yep,
and you can come and right to full screen or speaker screen. Okay.
Put your camera on, Matt.
Yep. All right.
There
you go.
Okay. Would you like the bio written first or the voting?
However you wish to do. You may want to do a little bit of a countdown maybe first to say.
That's what I was thinking.
Good.
All right. So this year, unlike in past years, we decided to do one final vote instead of a preliminary and then a final. And the final was determined by the committee coming together and deciding on which were the top 10 names. So that's how we arrived at what we arrived at. So we'll start from the bottom and go to the top. With 68 votes, Jack Stivitz. With 131 votes, Mike Tiernan. With 184 votes, Joe Start. With 248 votes, Lave Cross. With 254 votes, Cal McVeigh. With 258 votes, Paul Hines. With 341 votes, Brant Johnson. With 372 votes, George Van Haltren. Again, with 372 votes in a tie, Jim McCormick. With 391 votes, Tommy Bond. With 440 votes, George Stovey. With 444 votes, Al Reach. Top 3, 449 votes, Bobby Matthews. With 494 votes, Chris Vonder Eye. And our winner for Overlooked Legend this year in 2021, Charlie Bennett. Give me a moment. Scroll up. Charles Wesley Charlie Bennett has been selected as SABR's Overlooked 19th Century Baseball Legend for 2021. The announcement was made today, Tuesday, June 29th, at the SABR 19th Century Committee's annual business meeting held virtually via Zoom. In the spring, a record tying total of 341 SABR members submitted their votes for the 2021 Overlooked 19th Century Baseball Legend, a 19th century player, manager, executive, or other baseball personality not yet inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Previous Overlooked legends were Pete Browning in 2009, Deacon White in 2010, Harry Stovey in 2011, Bill Dolan in 2012, Ross Barnes in 2013, Doc Adams in 2014, Tony Mullane in 2015, Jack Glascock in 2016, Bob Carruthers in 2017, Dummy Hoy in 2018, and Jim Creighton in 2019, and of course, Bud Fowler last year. White became the first Overlooked legend to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. Bennett was one of the greatest catchers in the 19th century, starring for the Detroit Wolverines in the National League and playing every season of the franchise's existence. He was a powerful hitter who ranked among the leaders in home runs and slugging percentage while finishing in the top 10 in bases on balls 6 times. His .256 batting average was below the league average, but his .340 on base percentage and .387 slugging percentage were both well above average. Bennett, a leader on the field, also provided stellar defense behind the plate. He led National League catchers in fielding percentage 7 times, putouts 3 times, and ranked in the top 5 in games caught 10 times. He caught Lee Richmond's perfect game on June 12, 1880, the first perfect game in professional baseball history. Bennett was also an innovator in the use of equipment by popularizing the use of a chest protector and the catcher's mitt. He is credited with inventing the chest protector in 1883 when he wore a cork pad to protect himself from foul tips. He deflected much of the credit for the innovation to his wife, Alice, who was in constant worry of her husband's being a target for the speed merchants of his day. While traveling on a hunting trip with John Clarkson during the off-season in 1894, Bennett suffered a terrible train accident and lost both of his legs. He ended his career with the most games caught in history with 954. In 1896, Detroit's new ballpark, Bennett Park, was named after the city's beloved hero. Bennett caught the ceremonial first pitch at the stadium every year from 1896 until 1926. Bennett also stands out from a sabermetric perspective. He has a very impressive wins above replacement WAR total of 38.8, despite only playing in 1,062 games. While he was a very strong hitter, 76 batting runs above average, his 136 fielding runs above average are second all-time among catchers, behind Ivan Rodriguez's 147. While you consider that Rodriguez played 2,543 games, Bennett's total looks even better. Gary Carter, Gabby Hartnett, and Charlie Bennett are the only three catchers in history with 75-plus batting runs and 75-plus fielding runs. Bennett was an Overlooked Legend finalist from 2015 to 2021, finishing as runner-up in 2020. And that's it.
So Charlie Bennett's our man for 2021. And he did garner 563 points. And that was almost 70 points higher than the runner-up. So that was pretty significant. He was probably clearly pretty popular. Matt, I thank you very much for giving us that report.
Would you like me to put the results in the chat?
That would be good.
Yeah, you can do that.
Between puffs.
There we are.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to mention that there's a complete write-up also. Basically what Matt read is in our upcoming newsletter. It's the official press release, and it'll also be put on the SABR website. So I want to mention maybe right now at the beginning of this meeting that this meeting is being recorded. So at anybody who has to tune out, or anybody who, I'll mention it again at the end of the meeting, anybody who comes in late, they'll be able to view this entire meeting and I'll give you the link for that. Okay. Bob, I don't know if our next
He's not here.
if our next person is in yet. Do you want to
He's not
defer
here.
that until a little later and just see if he joins us?
Well, I suspect he's not going to come. He would be here if he was able.
Yeah, I think so too, because I had a
Why don't you just go ahead and make the announcement?
okay. So every year, as you know, we try to get an individual or two to we name our for our chairman's award. This year, of course, it's our co-chairman award, and Bob and I have had a long experience with this gentleman, and he is a gentleman in the nth degree, and he has been so instrumental in the success of the Frederick Ivor-Campbell Conference in Cooperstown. And you all know him, I think. Just about everybody who's here, certainly anybody who's been to Cooperstown. And we named this year Jim Gates, who's the librarian emeritus of the Baseball Hall of Fame Library, Giamatti Library. And we have a, I don't know if you could get this up on the screen. Or,
Just hold it up
yeah. Do you have it?
a little higher.
Whoop, I got
Higher,
it. Let me try to come back to my screen so I can see myself.
Yeah, just put it in front of your eyes.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So what we did is we give him a Burlingame bat, Burlingame model bat 1880s, and it's inscribed with his name on the barrel of the bat, and of course the logo for the 19th Century Committee is also inscribed on the bat, and it's our 2021 co-chairman's award to Jim Gates. So we'll be sending him this bat on a congratulatory note. So Bob, if I can now have turn to you for the report on the newsletter.
All right. The newsletter for this summer will be out immediately after the 4th of July holiday. And it will also, the release will coincide with the opening of the registration opportunity on the SABR website for the Brooklyn Interdisciplinary Symposium, which will be described in great detail in the newsletter. My usual pitch is here. You know, we always need articles. We always need things. I'm sitting right now on a terrible situation where I may have to write one, and you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. But if you have a article, if you have an idea, if you have done a statistical look at things, if you have a couple photos you want to show, send them along. The email is on every newsletter and in the SABR directory. I want to thank a number of you, and you see them throughout the years, who have contributed multiple articles for us, and they're always of such good quality. We haven't had to turn one down yet. In fact, we have two that we didn't publish because we thought they were so good, they ended up in the Baseball Research Journal. There's a question that came up on submission deadlines. It comes out quarterly, around January 1, April 1, July 1, and October 1 is our what we aim for. And if I can get things 15 to 30 days beforehand, I can start to work through layout. That's the major issue. There's been a couple of situations where we had to do a little editing, mostly because we get a 6,000 word article and suddenly that's the only thing that fits in the newsletter. We have to work on that a little bit. But articles up to 1,800, 2,500 words are good. If you've got photos or illustrations, please send them along. Otherwise, I'll go hunt them down on the internet and for something to put on there. And I guess we'll just close saying the newsletter will be out. The 5th, I think, is the release date that Peter set on that. And I just want to make one note that Alan Cohn put a note on here about the co-chair's award this year. Jim Gates, he's being inducted into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame on August 15th in upstate New York.
Who's that?
Jim Gates. He's
Oh,
going to
great.
New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. Thank you, Alan. Peter, that's all.
That's wonderful. Bob, you're a little bit modest, Bob, because you really got 15 pages here. You got David Nemec and Dixie Thoreau with 2 great articles. And you got plenty in here. So it's just, and there are 3 pages devoted to the Brooklyn Symposium, which Tom will be talking about in just a few moments. Tom Gilbert. So, okay. So I'm next on the agenda again. I think just about the last time. But my presentation will have to do, this portion of the meeting have to do with the Fred next year. So we are planning, of course, for the Fred to return to Cooperstown. If you mark your calendars now, you'll also see it as a mention in the newsletter. It'll be April the 29th and 30th. That's the Friday, April 29th, and Saturday the 30th. And I've worked with Jim's successor, who is Cassidy Lent. And she has been, I guess, well indoctrinated by Jim, because she is also a pleasure to work with and is very, very helpful. And she is really, in our camp, and she's very much a fan of our conference. So we will be back in Cooperstown live. I've worked with the same caterers again, Townsend Catering for our welcoming dinner and our Saturday luncheon. And of course, the Otesaga Hotel for our Saturday evening post-conference gathering. I just want to give you a little bit of a, so that'll be live, and thank God we're coming to the end of this, I guess, I hope. And I also want to mention that within a week of the publication of the newsletter, I'll be sending out, the newsletter is going to come out on Tuesday the 6th, and I will be sending out to all our committee members a call for abstracts for research presentations at the Fred. So we'll be doing our standard call for abstracts. The timeline will be, that'll come out before July 15th. It'll be in the form of a group email. And it'll also have some deadlines. We received those abstracts all the way up through the end of October, the 31st of October. And then I have a jury impaneled, and they take about 3 weeks, sometimes, sometimes a little quicker. But before Thanksgiving, I'm usually able to get the jury results. And then what we do is we notify everybody, if they were selected this year or not. And if they are, we give them about 2 weeks to respond back early December, December 10th or something like that, to let us know if they're able to make that presentation and are willing to register. So that'll be what format will be. So you'll see a call for abstracts for the research presentations in about another week, and that'll be a little more than a week, about 2 weeks. Okay, so we're back to Cooperstown, and I'm very happy about that. Okay, and the next, Bob, we go back to you again.
And they're as you noted in yours, this is my last time on the agenda, and everybody is fortunate for that also. The speakers, we're going to talk about the 19th Century Speaker Series. We started that this year.
Bob started it.
In October. It was an attempt to try and provide an outlet for some interaction among the committee and presentations during this time when we couldn't get together at the Fred or at the National Convention or at other various meetings that we sponsor or run into each other at. And it was very well attended and presented. We had 7 presentations made. We had we started out with 30 or 40. We quickly got up to 70, 80 regular attendees. And we essentially run on a academic year, September to May, and take the summer off. And we have finished the program for year 2, beginning this September. It will stay on the same night as it has been, the second Tuesday of each month at 8 o'clock. And we've always had a very wide geography attending the meetings. We have folks from Ontario to British Columbia, from California to Florida to Boston. I mean, it's just all over. We will start this year. All of the presentations and the presenters will be listed in the newsletter, and you'll see the full schedule. But Bruce Allardyce, talking about baseball in the Wild Wild West, will start us off in September. Please watch the SABR's methodology of getting you links has changed in the last year for Zoom meetings. These are all done via Zoom meeting. and you have to register. That puts you on the list to get the link either the day before or the morning of the activity. So if you would just watch that, there is a notice that will go out from Peter or I that you will be able to remind you of what's coming up and give you some information on the speaker and the topic that is going to be presented. So this will continue going for year 2. And what we have found, to change the direction just a little bit, is even though we did it because we couldn't get together, it has proved not only popular enough, but we think worthwhile enough to continue, even in the face that we're going to be having conventions in the Fred and various things in person. It allows people who either don't have the time to travel or have schedule difficulties to come and participate. And it has also allowed us to get people who may not have participated before in this activity to take part in some work and presentations for the 19th Century Committee, several of which have gone on and are regular workers in joining various subcommittees and projects that we have. So we're very, very pleased with that. And you can look forward to, in the newsletter, getting the dates, the titles, and the speakers for the rest of the season 2. All right, Peter, thank you.
Yeah, that's an exciting program, and Bob has really initiated that and paid attention to all the details to make it happen. And we're forever indebted to you, Bob, for that. And we have a great program, I think, coming up this season too. I think we're starting off a good tradition, and we have a pretty good lineup in the beginning. I think we're keeping that up. Anyway, so also in the newsletter, there's all of the 3 pages devoted to the what the next speaker is going to speak about is our Brooklyn Interdisciplinary Symposium, which is going to take place in November. So Tom, can I turn it over to you?
Sure. Yeah, some of us have been looking forward to this for a few years now. Brooklyn is a perfect subject for this kind of event. And it's going to be virtual, but I'll give you some idea of what the program looks like right now. You know, we had Brooklyn baseball, even Brooklyn 19th century baseball is way too big a topic. We tried to keep it toward the earlier part of the 19th century because there's just so much to talk about. All the important things that happened in the development of baseball that are associated with Brooklyn. And I probably don't have to tell anybody here the whole list, but statistics, modern pitching, ballparks, paid admission, the first full-time baseball journalist is a Brooklynite. It's hard to imagine the baseball history without what happened in Brooklyn before 1875. But we're going to try to present a coherent program that makes some of these points the most important themes. Should I mention, Peter, who we have lined up?
You can, if you like.
Okay. We have a couple of research presentations. Ralph Carhart is going to talk about the alliance between baseball and journalism in 19th century Brooklyn, which was incredibly important in making the game the national pastime. John Thorne is going to speak, give the welcoming address. Brian Sheehy is going to talk about the tours of Brooklyn clubs in Boston that brought the game to the Boston area in the 1860s. I am going to present about the birth of the fan. And we're not just talking about baseball fans, we're talking about the first sports fans as such in American history, who are really an accidental byproduct of a rivalry that developed in the late 1850s between Brooklyn and New York City in baseball. Because if you do what I've done and read every game story and pay attention to how many people are described as coming to the games, you can see an unexpected explosion of interest between inter-club matches, especially between a New York and a Brooklyn club. And that culminates in the 1858 Fashion Course Series, which is, of course, Brooklyn versus New York, where there's some humor to this story, because the people that were promoting baseball in Brooklyn and New York in the 1850s, it never entered their mind that they were building a business or trying to attract general public interest. They were trying to sell it as a participant sport. It's kind of humorous that one of the most important historical developments in this period is really an accident. And it was the fans, the general public, deciding that they cared who won or lost this game. The Fashion Course Series had to charge 10 cents as a groundskeeping fee because they were going to have to repair the horse racing track after the game. And to everyone's shock, 10,000 people roughly show up at game one. You can sort of hear the buzz growing if you read newspaper accounts as they move the series to a horse racing track out of desperation, because they're starting to worry about how many people will come to the game. You don't have to go too many years before 1858 to find a reporter shocked that a few hundred people are at a game. So this is a big development. Of course, people noticed that 10,000 people are willing to pay a dime to see a baseball game. Among them, Mr. Kammeyer, who built the first ballpark in Brooklyn in 1862. And at this point, the ball is rolling toward professionalism. So this is something that really happened because of Brooklyn fans and their interest in beating New York City at its own game. So I'm going to do a presentation on the beginning of fandom. We have scored a great coup and gotten Thomas Campanella, a professor of history at Cornell, who wrote a recent history of Brooklyn. That's a wonderful book, Brooklyn, the Once and Future City, and he's going to talk to us. We're going to have a panel discussion about the question of whether Brooklyn is the actual birthplace of baseball. Carhart is going to moderate. David Dyte, who's an expert on early ballparks. Myself and Bill Reisig will be on the panel. And our last research presentation is Justin McKinney talking about the end period of the Atlantics, their last act, and what happened to them. And that's an interesting story. The following day, this will all be virtual. The following day, my plan, I was originally going to do a live tour of some historical spots. And I've done these things before, and I decided that it'd be more interesting to film it and edit it, because we can go to a lot more places. If I did it live in real time, we'd have to only visit a few graves in Greenwood, say, or take a short walk around Brooklyn Heights. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do at least 2 tours, film them and edit them for the consumption of the people attending this conference, and then we'll have a discussion live after I show it. So this will enable me to go to places like the Union Grounds and other ballpark sites. We'll go to Red Hook and see where the 1860 championship game was played, which you may not know is still a baseball diamond. It's used by Xavier High School. It's fun to go to the games there and tell the kids that the 1860 championship game happened there. We won't go to my house, which is sitting in center field of the Eckford's original playing grounds, but we can talk about it. There's not much left of that. The bar they drank in was around Greenpoint until the 1960s when it burned down, with one relocation. But that's going to be the plan. That's, in a nutshell, that's the plan for the 19th Century Interdisciplinary Conference. We were originally going to partner with St. Francis College in downtown Brooklyn if it were going to be an in-person event. They were kind enough to offer their facilities, but maybe we can do that in the future. With it being virtual, we don't need to do that. So did I cover everything there, Peter?
It sounds like you do, Tom. Tom, I detect a little twinkle in your eye.
I'm twinkling.
And Tom, you could check out the New York Times about the new Staten Island Yankees. Well, they won't be the Yankees.
Well, they're going to have an independent league team, it looks like, in the Atlantic League.
Atlantic League, right.
Yeah, well, you and I should catch a game there, because in some ways, those independent league games are more fun than a minor league game.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much again, and thank you for all you're putting into this.
Peter, if I could, in the newsletter, we will have the full program, the speakers and their topics, in addition to a short bios on the featured speakers, Professor Campanella and John Thorne. And we have all the information about registering and the dates and times, and including Tom's Sunday presentation about his walk around Brooklyn.
Oh, sorry, there's one more thing I should add, which is my plan. A lot of people were saying if they were in the area, could they come on the tour? And so I'm going to let people who want to come along on the tour, which will probably be in at least 2 parts. So I'll have an audience when we're videoing it. And if anybody's in the metropolitan area and wants to come, they'd be welcome. I'll let everyone know.
And you can reach Tom. His email is in the SABR directory, and you can get a hold of him that way.
Great, Tom. Thank you so much.
You.
John, I know you're on here, John Thorne, also, and I want to thank you for, again, for our 5th symposium, playing a part in it and doing our welcoming address, I think now for the 3rd time. Thank you. And I'm gonna go next, back to Brooklyn. I think we have our outgoing chair and our incoming chair of the 19th Century Grave Marker Project. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Ralph Carhart, and then he will introduce his successor. Okay, Ralph.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everybody. Thanks. I apologize for the less than aesthetically beautiful background this time around. I'm moving in 48 hours and leaving Brooklyn, in fact.
Oh,
I know. For the first time in my life, I'm not going to be living in New York State. It's exciting. But before I leave town, we're going to have one more dedication for one of the graves that I oversaw. On July 20th, we're going to have a dedication ceremony for a grave for Louis Judd Castro, who's buried at Mount St. Mary Cemetery in Flushing, Queens. Judd was the first Latin American major leaguer he played in 1902 for the Philadelphia Athletics. I understand that's the 20th century. You can give your complaints about that to Sam, who's taking over for me. Judd here, I'm going to actually shoot everybody. That's Judd's SABR bio right there. I just put in the chat, written by Brian McKenna. He got his start in the 19th century, enough for us to qualify him. We're going to have a lovely dedication ceremony with assistance from the office of State Senator Jessica Ramos. Louis was from Colombia, and Senator Ramos is the first Colombian American state senator. So there's a lovely little crossover there that we'll be following. Louis was, he was a character. He was one of, one of those people who made the game more fun for those guys who played with him. He got his start at Manhattan College. He learned the game here in the States after his family emigrated. Even after his one season in Major League Baseball, he stuck around in professional baseball for a while, even managing a professional baseball team. If you check out Brian McKenna's great SABR bio, you can learn more about him. The dedication ceremony will be at Mount St. Mary on July 20th. I believe we're starting at 10 a.m. I'll have more details, including a complete itinerary that I will shoot out to everybody. I'll send something to Bob and Peter, and then they can spread it with the larger group. If you are in the New York City area, we really hope that you can join us. It promises to be something very special. This one has been a tough one. The cemetery was a little bit, sometimes these projects are easier than others. This cemetery was particularly challenging, in part because the pandemic happened, and so everybody sort of fell off of everybody else's radar, and it took a while to make this one happen. So we're very excited that we're finally pulling this one off, and I'm personally very excited to be doing this one. As Peter just mentioned, I am stepping down as the head of the Grave Marker Project. I'm still going to stay on the committee and be a part of it, but I have a number of other things going on, and so I'm going to step down. And the new head of the committee is Sam Gazdziak, who's here. And John just put in the chat, by the way, I want to mention everyone, that July 20th is not an accidental date. It is, in fact, the Colombian Independence Day. So there's a lot of layers to this particular ceremony. We also have another one in the works that is sort of being spearheaded by Sam, who is taking over for me. Sam, why don't you take over now and let everyone know what it is that you're working on?
Okay, yeah, thanks so much for the introduction, Ralph. I appreciate that. Hey, everybody, I'm Sam Gazdziak. I'm really thrilled to be on this committee. I've been writing about baseball grave sites on my blog, RIP Baseball, for a couple years now, and I've visited unmarked graves in the past, and I've always felt bad that there was nothing that I could do about it. So to be in a position where maybe I can do something about it is an absolute thrill for me, and I'm really glad to do that. The first project that we are working on is going to be on Ned Williamson, the 19th century home run king. He was with the Chicago White Stockings as a mainstay in their infield for pretty much all of the 1880s, I believe, and in 1884 set the home run record with 27 home runs in a season. And that record stood up until a guy named Ruth came along, but that's the 20th century, so we're not talking about him at the moment. And yeah, there are some extenuating circumstances that he hit those home runs because he was playing in a ballpark roughly the size of a phone booth, but 27 is still 27. And he died at a incredibly young age. He was only about 36 when he passed away. He's been lying in Rose Hill Cemetery in one unmarked grave or another for since then. And the folks at Rose Hill have been absolutely fantastic to work with. This was my first time, so I wasn't quite sure how this was going to play out, kind of what I was doing. Ralph walked me through this a great deal, and I was very, very grateful for that. But their contact ended up digging through a couple of these 20-pound manuals that they had for cemetery records from the 19th century, and she's got Ned's location marked down. We are getting that marked now, and there's going to be I'm going to get a photo of that, and then once I get the photo of the before shot, I'm going to start some promotion on that, and hopefully spread the word on getting that project lined up. I can't give you a date as to when this is all going to be completed. Like I say, I'm new here, so I'm going to use that as my excuse for about the better part of a year. So you're going to have to deal with I'm new here a lot. But Ralph will walk me through the rest of the way on that, and I'll post updates as much as we're able to with the newsletters and the emails and what have you. And then, so once that is further along in the work, it's going to be time for our next person after that. And that's where I could use some help. I will post all my contact information in the chat afterwards. You can email me at samgazdziak@gmail.com. Like I said, there's a lot of Z's. I'll put the address in the chat room. You can also go on to ripbaseball.com and contact me through there. Pretty much any social media network of your choice, I'm on most of them. Not Snapchat, not OnlyFans, but most of the other ones I am. So one thing that Ralph had was working on, and I agree with too, is that we could do this grave marker project just in New York, Boston, and Chicago. If we really wanted to, we could just do it in Greenwood Cemetery. But we do really want to spread this out to other areas as far as we can. So we are looking for names. I'm looking for names. If you know of someone who is in an unmarked grave or their gravestone is deteriorated, unreadable, in desperate need of refurbishment, please contact me. I'm getting a list together and we'd love to add to that. But as I said, if we can go beyond kind of those three mainstay cities where we've been, that'd be fantastic. So, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Detroit, get working on those cemeteries. Let me know who we should get on the list and we will see what we can do with it. So that's, I think, all I have. Again, thanks for the opportunity and I look forward to being a part of this.
Thank you very much, Sam, and welcome to the position. I would like you to just know that in the upcoming newsletter that'll be coming out next week on the 6th, There's a half a page devoted to the 19th Century Grave Marker Project, what has been done and its future. And of course, your email address is in there for, people to contact you with the information you're looking for. I also like to just say, I know Bob and I have spoken about this, about Ralph's work on this. John Thorne has been critical to this also, but Ralph has had this assignment for coming up on 6 years. And in that time, there's been 6 dedications, going all the way back to James White Davis in Brooklyn, where we're gonna also almost end up, we'll be in Queens anyway. But we also had a dedication in Boston for Andy Leonard, a dedication in Pittsburgh for Pug Galvin. We have a dedication in Chicago for Parisian Bob Carruthers. We had a dedication in Philadelphia for Hicks Hayhurst. And Ralph, you did a wonderful job with it.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you again for your support of Sam. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, John. And thanks for, and you, Bob. Without your help throughout all of this, none of it would have been possible. It's been an absolute honor to be able to serve SABR in this way, and quite frankly, to be able to serve the gentlemen whose markers that we've placed. I'm excited to see what Sam's going to do with it, with the fresh blood that he will inject into it. So,
thank you. Well, the other half of that page that I just mentioned, that's going to talk about the Grave Marker Project. The other half of that page is devoted to another project committee that was recently started this year. And I want to say that it all began when John Thorne and Bob Bailey took the initiative to take Preston Orem's 12 supplements that recorded what went on in baseball in the newspapers from 1882 to 1891, and they're known as the supplements. And if you were very lucky, like you might have had, like I have here on my shelf, a loosely found copies of those supplements, and I was able to refer to them on numerous occasions. But what Bob and John did was they meticulously recreated those supplements in one digital format that's now on the SABR website, and it can be accessed as it's a vital piece of research information. And so on that very same page, I have a report about our new committee. And what began to happen, by the way, when the announcement was made that the supplements were available and had been digitized, it became a discussion among a handful of SABR member or committee members who are, some of them are here tonight, about the issue about Orem has always been, well, where did that come from? What, he doesn't always cite where his information came from. So to the rescue came Bob LeMoine, who volunteered to take on the project committee of doing the citations for the Orem supplements. So I want to change the meeting over right now to Bob LeMoine to talk a little bit just about that new project.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. I just put the link in the chat to that project that Bob and John put together, because they really did all the work on there. And I just said, hey, it should be easy to find these, these quotes and things based on the number of digitized newspapers that we have today. And pretty soon I had a job doing this. And I've got a good crew of people, probably 6, 7, 8 people that are on this. And basically all we're doing is we have broken down Orem's work into the 78 chapters, some longer than others, but we're going through and identifying the direct quotes that he has taken from newspapers And I kid you not, I have literally found some of these in a matter of minutes just by typing in a few of the keywords into newspapers.com or Genealogy Bank or some of the other sites that many of you use 19th century stuff. Others of them I've given up on, and I'm going to go back to eventually. I haven't given up completely, but some of them are a little more difficult. But last I checked, I think we have, out of the 78, I think we have at least about 50 that are signed up for. People have signed up and said, I'll take that chapter on. So there's probably about 20 to 25 left. So if you're an expert on 1885, 86, or 88, this might be the thing for you, because that's pretty much the gaps that we have now. And so we're just going along. We have a spreadsheet, we have a Google Doc. It's as simple as that. That's what we're doing. We're just going through and we're finding the quotes and directing people there. And at the end of all this, we'll have a nice supplement to Orem's work. And it's basically as simple as that. Although it can be frustrating at times. So I can put my email on the chat if you want to email me about that. But that's what that's all about.
Yes, and I also do have your email in the newsletter too, Bob. So you may get some results from that. That goes out next week.
Let me make one note on his email address. It's Library Bob L. Make sure that L is there, because there's another Library Bob who I sent a notice to, and he said, wrong guy. Almost nicely, he said it.
That's right. It's Library Bob L. That is correct. At gmail.com. So anyone who wants to get involved in this project, just shoot Bob an email, and we'll get it going. He'll get it going for you. I know the end result would actually be a kind of digitized publication that'll be like a companion piece.
Yes. Yep.
To Bob John's work of digitizing the supplements. So
Yeah.
it'll be a real smooth type of way of comparing them.
Yep.
Okay, Bob, it is a pleasure to see you for the first time. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're kind of come up here to the end of our meeting with some new business. And the first item we have in new business, there's just a couple of items, but the first item is Don Jensen. And I think Don is tuned in here now.
He is.
Yeah, okay, great. And Don followed protocol. He went to the new, which individuals can do. He went to the new SABR editorial board and proposed so much work that he had done on Harry Stevens. And one of the categories that the editorial board covers is something called multimedia. And Donald, if you'd like, you could tell everybody in attendance here a little bit about that and what your needs might be.
Good, great to see all of you. I think I was kicked out of the conference 5 or 6 times. Bob, thanks for reinstating me each time. Well, anyway, we have a very exciting new project I want to talk to the group about. And as some of you may remember, I briefed on Harry in February, Peter, was it? And always a great deal of fun. And I wanted to talk not just about the guy, but about his life and times and his role in the game, and of course his development into a legend of concessions. So when I sent it to the new SABR board, as I told you, as you just said, Peter, they said, fantastic idea, you're on for a multimedia study of Harry and his life and times. And I should say that Bill Lamb and John McMurray are my deputies. However, they said, you've got to do concessions as a whole. So Harry will be the frame, but we want to look at, they said, we want everybody who buys a hot dog at every ballpark, major and minor, to know where it came from. And so I have, covered Harry for about 6-7 years of research very thoroughly. And there certainly will be a place for John Thorne and I to include Evelyn Nesbitt and her life and times as well. But what I need are contributors, and that what's a contributor? Well, a contributor, we need film, music, text, photos, the big 4 for Ken Burns, and just people who are fired by the passion. If you want to just write the history of Cracker Jack, for example, I'll take that. If you want, what the SABR board wants as well is a timeline of when some of these products were introduced, hot dogs, tripe, watermelon, whatever. And so it's very exciting. We're getting rolling now. And what I would like to ask the group here is, if you want to contribute in some way, and I'm not going to have the, when you write something like the history of Cracker Jack, it doesn't have to be a polished end product, because we're not publishing it as a SABR article in a SABR publication. We're going to be doing podcasts, film essays, interviews with individuals. And trust me, I used to work at Radio Liberty on broadcasting. I've checked all of you out for good voices already, so don't act surprised if I say, well, Peter, I need a Staten Island accent. But I've got a friend in London who I've already contacted about doing voiceovers as Harry. But in any case, if you're interested, please write me in any way you feel you can contribute, and I'll look forward to hearing from all of you. And Peter's going to list this, I think, in the newsletter, Peter and Bob as well. So
Yeah, and I'll also get out a email blurb on it too, Bob. That'll be, I'll kind of let you peruse it and actually kind of edit it and get out what you really want to say. We could do a whole direct email, group email to the 19th Century Committee.
yeah, I'm exploring, finding a whole new world. I was inspired by the music presentation we did, remember, a couple of months ago at the Fred, the virtual Fred. And it's just an incredibly rich area once you get into it. I think people are going to have fun working on it.
Thank you, Don, and congratulations again for getting that approved.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Bob, I'm going to just go back to me, if you would.
Go ahead.
All right, and we're just gonna, I just have 2 last pieces of business. One is, this book is called Baseball, the New York Game. And I got an email the other night when I got asked for new business, and Tony Morante, who has been a long time employee of the New York Yankees, starting as an usher and eventually becoming a tour guide at the stadium and a Yankee historian in a sense, New York Yankees historian. And for a long, long time, Tony has worked on this book. And I would say that it's very interesting. It's a book of a little over 200 pages, but there's fully 75 pages in the beginning of the book that are devoted to the 19th century. So it's an interesting 75 pages because it doesn't only address baseball, and there's so many nuances, there's so many things that can be discussed about New York baseball in the 19th century, but he also talks a lot about New York City 19th century history. So it's a really interesting book. It's called Baseball, the New York Game by Tony Morante. So that might interest you. All right, and I wanted to reiterate that this meeting has been recorded. So as soon as tomorrow evening, if any of you missed any portion of the meeting, the beginning of which, or anything, any part of it, you can go to the website, sabr.org/virtual-meeting/archive. So that's sabr.org/virtual-meeting/archive. meeting-archive. And
Peter, I just posted that in the chat.
oh, great. Okay. So you already did that. That's fine. That's fabulous. Okay. So Bob's, anything in closing? Any other?
I think we've kind of dealt with the comments and questions that have come up. Does anybody have any, we'll go audio now, questions or points that they wish to bring up? Hearing none, we'll all go to bed.
I do have one point I'd like to bring up.
Go ahead.
A couple of weeks ago, Peter did me a great service by reaching out to you all via email about a proposed historical marker to the 1871 Philadelphia Athletics that we're trying to fund and place at the Athletics then home grounds at Jefferson Street. So if you would take a look at that, consider donating if you are able. I understand the pandemic has been tough for everyone. So we're about halfway there for funding, just trying to get over the finish line. And as a small promotion, Shy Vintage Sports, a clothier in Philadelphia, has offered to give a free shirt to anyone who donates $100 or more. It's a Shy Park t-shirt, so not exactly the same thing, but you get a free t-shirt out of it. And if you decide to do that, just reach out to me and I'll ensure that you get your t-shirt. So, and share with your friends too, so we can get the word out.
Great. Also, Matt, on page 11 of the upcoming newsletter, you'll see a whole thing on the news and notes dedicated to that project. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be in the newsletter. So, okay. Bob, anything else you see on the chat line?
No, there's nothing new there. We've hold on, I'm just looking what there. Yeah, there's Jonathan Popovich just posted a note on there about the book you had from about New York baseball, that there's some comments in there about military history and baseball connection to some of that through the growth of New York City.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. I see that notation now. Jonathan pointed that out. Okay. Well, without further ado, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah. Everybody click leave.
Let's go eat.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Don, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. And on the bottom of the agenda, you'll see Bob and I's email in case you want to send us anything, any further discussion on any of our topics here or anything else. Drop us an email. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.